Senate President and the Senators of the Republic.
Saan si Cheese? Malis. The 33rd session of the Senate, the second regular session of the 19th Congress, is hereby called to order. Our chamber will be led in prayer by our distinguished colleague, Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Walhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Bismillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mga mahal kong kapatid, tayo po ay manalangin sa ating nag-iisang Panginoon Diyos, Diyos po ng mga Muslim, Kristiyano, Hudyo. Tayo pong lahat ay nanggaling kay Propeta Abraham at mula po sa kanya dumating po ang mga propeta, si Moses, si Ishmael, Isaac, Jesus, Muhammad. Ito pong pagkakataon na ito, tayo po ay yumuko, tayo po ay pumikit, tayo po ay lumapit sa nag-iisang Diyos. O Panginoon namin, na kayo po ang lumikha sa langit at lupa. Kami po ay nananalangin. Kami po muli ay lumuluhod, nagpapatirapa sa mga nangyayari po sa aming kapaligiran. Katulad po ng nangyayari ngayon sa bansang Palestina, Israel, mga Muslim, Hudyo, Kristiyano. Sila po ay nasa loob ng isang digmaan na hindi po namin maintindihan kung saan po nanggagaling ang mga karahasan na ito na nabiging biktima ang mga bata, matanda. Panginoon namin, patawarin niyo po kami sa aming pagmamalabis, sa aming mga ginagawang hindi ka nais-nais. Hinihingi po namin na tulungan niyo po kami, na bigyan kami ng talino, ng lakas, para mapigilan po namin sa aming abot na makakaya ang karahasan na ito at magkaroon po ng tigil putukan, magkaroon po ng kapayapaan, magkaroon po ng pagkakaisa, pagkakaintindihan. Dahil Panginoon namin, ito pong kaguluhan na ito kapag lumaki, baka hindi po namin mapigil ito at ito po ay umabot sa aming bansa. At magkaroon po ito ng hindi magandang epekto sa mga kababayan po namin, sa 80% ng aming mga kababayan na sa hanggang ngayon ay naghihikahos sa kahirapan. Panginoon, nagmamakaawa po kami dahil kayo po ang tunay na mapagpala at mahabagin. Tulungan niyo po kami. Kayo lamang po ang makapagbibigay sa amin ng tulong, wala ng iba. Panginoon, kami pong lahat, Muslim, Kristiyano, Hudyo, kami pong lahat ay nananampalataya sa inyo. Kami pong lahat ay umaasa sa tulong ninyo. Amin. Allahu Akbar.
Amen. Secretary, please call the roll of members.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Angara, Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cynthia, Senator Villar Mark, the Senate President.
I saw Senator Cheese here kanina. Is he kasama na siya? Okay. With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. 20 with Senator Bato. Anyone else coming from the elevator? Senator Bato, that makes 20. We included you, Senator Gatchalian.
And Senator Escudero, Mr. President.
Yes, I saw him earlier. Yes. Yes, Majority
Yes,
Leader.
Mr. President. Mr. President, before we proceed, may I just acknowledge some guests from the gallery, guests of our Senate President, Miss May Parsons, the Filipina nurse who administered the world's first COVID-19 vaccine. Miss Parsons here with us, together with Crizel Kilikaslan, Suhata Stead, and Tom Keenan, Mr. President. We would like to welcome all of them in this August chamber. By the way, Mr. President, Miss Parsons, a UST alumnus, Mr. President.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and UST won this morning, Mr. President, Game 1 of the UAAP Women's Finals.
Ano nangyari sa men's?
I'm just saying,
women's
Mr.
to,
President.
women's. Okay.
I'm just saying, Mr. President.
Okay. Yung men's yata UP, no?
Yeah, but men's, we don't know what's gonna happen later, Mr. President.
That's right.
But
Congratulations
UST won,
to the
Mr.
women.
President.
Women's basketball team.
Thank you, Mr. President.
May volleyball pa next month. Wala problema.
Senator Angara is trying to object and push for his team, Mr. President.
Oh, UP din yan,
But
UP.
the women's team of UP
How about
didn't
Ateneo?
make it
How about
against the
Ateneo?
UST Tigress, Mr.
How
President.
about
Mr.
Ateneo?
President, at this juncture,
How is the UST
I
men's
move-
team doing, Mr. President?
Mr. President, at this juncture, I also would like to acknowledge some guests from the gallery, guests of Senator Pia Cayetano, Alice Reyes, the national artist for dance, together with Gregory Francis Banzon, Ronaldson Yadao, and Aaron Veloso. Guests of the Senate.
We are honored to have the national artist for dance here, Miss Alice Reyes, and of course her group. Mabuhay po kayo, Ma'am
Welcome
Alice.
po.
Mabuhay po.
Also, we'd like to welcome in the Senate, Mr. President, political science students of the University of San Jose Recoleto, Cebu City. They are here today, Mr. President, and we'd like to
Maayong hapon
welcome
sa
all of them.
ato mga bisdak na maigsoon from Cebu
Daghang
and the
salamat.
Visayas.
Also, Mr. President,
Welcome.
guest of our colleague, Senator Ontiveros, Mayor Patrick Ellis Go of Municipality of Siniloan, Laguna, with ABC President Janet Ramos Carandang, members of Sangguniang Barangay of Siniloan, and Yahoo Youth Organization led by President Ace Distana. We welcome all of you
Welcome
in
to
this
the Senate.
August chamber.
Welcome to the Senate, to the ladies and gentlemen mentioned by the majority floor
Yes,
leader.
Mr. President, we also have with us the Barangay Kabataan of Sangguniang Kabataan of Barangay UBL San Pedro, Laguna. We welcome all of you.
I also have a personal friend here to help us steer the pedidas. We have with us Martin Tuason of Arms Corps Global.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. President, our guest. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 32nd Session, Tuesday, November 28, 2023, and consider the same as approved.
There being no objection, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Before we proceed to the reference of business, do we also greet the men in uniform in the back? We have, I think, members of the PNP, the BFP. Who else am I missing? BJMP
And
are here with
Bucor,
us.
if I'm not mistaken, Bucor
And Bureau
is
of,
also here.
Bureau of Corrections.
Fortunately,
Welcome to
the
your
staff
Senate.
didn't give us anything, Mr.
No,
President.
no, I could see that from here. It's all right. You're turned around. I think even General Katapang is there with them. General, together with their
And the
men
Coast Guard
and
also,
women.
Mr. President.
Coast Guard is here as well.
Here
Yes,
also.
I think they're here to help assist our sponsor, Senator Jinggoy, on the MUP. Special.
Who is wearing a special jacket, Mr.
He's
President?
wearing his lucky jacket today.
Mr. President, I move for the previous motion.
Yes, there be no objection. Please proceed, Secretary.
Bills on first reading. Senate Number 2493, an act fulfilling the rights and strengthening the privileges of public school teachers under RA 4670, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees of Basic Education, Civil Service, and Finance.
2494, providing for a Magna Carta of tricycle drivers and operators, institutionalizing mechanism for its implementation and for other purposes. Senator Ejercito.
Committees of Public Service, Local Government, and Finance.
2495, amending Presidential Decree Number 1314, Charter of the PUP. Senator Ejercito.
To Committees on Higher Technical Vocational Education, Ways and Means, and Finance.
2496, promoting inclusive education, entrepreneurship, and employment for sustainable development among 4Ps adult beneficiaries, amending RA 11310. Senator Ejercito.
Committees on Social Justice and Economic Affairs.
2497, establishing a reform in the regulation of collective bargaining agreements, amending PD 442, otherwise known as the Labor Code of the Philippines. Senator Ejercito.
Committee on Labor and Employment.
2498, establishing the Philippine Atomic Energy Regulatory Authority and providing for a comprehensive legal framework for nuclear safety, security, and safeguards in the peaceful utilization of nuclear energy in the Philippines, appropriating funds therefore. Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Science and Technology, Civil Service, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Resolutions. Proposed Senate Resolution 866, urging the appropriate Senate committee to exercise its oversight function on the implementation of the senior citizen and PW discounts in various sales and service establishments. Senator Ontiveros.
Committee on Social Justice and Welfare.
867, urging the Executive Department of the Republic of the Philippines to cooperate with the International Criminal Court and assist in the ICC investigation into the situation in the Philippines. Senator Ontiveros.
Committee on Rules.
868, directing the Senate Committee on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development to conduct an inquiry on the alleged unlawful redundancy program implemented by the Converge Metroworks ICT Construction, Inc. for the purpose of dismantling employee unions. Senator Padilla.
Committee on Labor and Employment.
871, congratulating and commending Kenneth Cobonpue as the first Filipino to receive the 2023 Pratt Legends Award. Senator Binay.
Committee on Rules. 872,
Directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry on the regulation of transportation network vehicle services and other common carriers. Senator Tulfo.
Committee on Public Services.
Additional
There's
reference
to business.
of business. Bills on first reading. Senate Number 2499. Providing for the modernization of the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, providing funds therefore and for other purposes. Senator Ejercito.
Committee on Science and Technology, Ways and Means, and Finance.
2500, an act mandating the provision of comprehensive renal replacement therapy to patients with end-stage renal disease in national, regional, and provincial government hospitals, increasing for the purpose the PhilHealth package rate for members and appropriating funds therefore. Senator Ejercito.
Committees on Health and Demography and Finance.
Committee Report 173, jointly by the Committees on National Defense and Security, Peace, Unification, and Reconciliation, Government Corporations and Public Enterprises, and Finance, on Senate Number 2501 with Senators Estrada, Revilla Jr., Marcos, Gatchalian as authors. An act providing a new separation, retirement, and pension system for the military and the uniformed personnel and appropriating funds therefore. Recommending its approval in substitution of Senate Numbers 284, 1421, 2434, and 2446, taking into consideration House Number 8969. Sponsor, Senator Estrada.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended for a minute.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2432. This is the bill on Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, motion is approved.
Mr. President, the parliamentary status of the measure is that we are now in the period of individual amendments. And with the consent of the body, I move to resume the period of individual amendments and recognize our distinguished sponsor, the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Senator Cynthia Villar. I so move, Mr. President.
The lady senator from Las Piñas, our chairperson of the committee, is recognized.
Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Thank you, Mr. President. In accordance with the Rule 29, Section 82, Paragraph 2 of the Rules of the Senate, and with the consent of the body, this representation seeks to amend by substitution Senate Bill 2432 under Committee Report Number 118. After extensive interpellations and deliberation on the matter, this amendment in the nature of a substitute addresses the collective amendments and legal issues pertaining to the bill. With that, Mr. President, and with the permission of the body, I move to amend the bill by deleting the entire text after enacting the enacting clause and replacing the same with the provisions contained in the proposed amendment in the nature of a substitute as filed with the Legislative Bills and Index Service and distributed to the senators yesterday, November 28, 2023. Further, I also move that the text thereof be considered as read into the record. I so move, Mr. President.
We join the motion of our distinguished colleague, the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Agriculture. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion, motion is approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So we are now working, Mr. President, with this new, the amendment in the nature of a substitute bill, and to further...
Is this the measure, this one right here? It's,
yes, Mr. President, as of...
dated November 28. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
So, Mr. President, to continue with the individual amendments, I move that we recognize our Minority Leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. So move, Mr. President.
Thank you. Before we recognize the distinguished minority floor leader, may we just, to put order in the proceedings, can we do a page-by-page amendment, Your Honors, so that we can follow? We'll start with page 1, so on and so forth. Yes,
I think,
distinguished minority floor leader.
Mr. President, we will follow a person-by-person amendment. I think I will be the only person proposing amendments today.
I believe Senator Tol also will be proposing later.
Yeah, but
Para we can follow lang
because
siguro.
Senator Tolentino's amendment is in the last paragraph, so it doesn't
Oh, okay.
matter. It doesn't matter anyway.
Maybe just
Sige po.
to make it quick, I'll just go page by page with your permission,
Sige.
sir. So you're ready for your amendments, Your Honor?
Sige po, with the caveat, Mr. President, just like everybody else, we also face some time constraints, and although we are proposing amendments now, this may not be the sum total of all our proposed amendments. So just to move the process and to get immediately the feedback if the sponsor accepts or does not accept our proposed amendment, Mr. President.
Yes. That's clear.
With that caveat, we are ready to proceed, Mr. President.
Thank you very
Sige,
much, Your
sige
Honors.
po.
With the
And then-
permission of the
yes.
sponsor and the minority floor leader, are there any amendments on page 1? No amendments on page 1 for the minority leader? Any amendments on page 2?
Siya na gumawa niyan.
Any amendments on page 3, my dear colleagues? There being none?
Mr. President.
Yes,
Mr. President, this is one amendment which needs time, no? Because it appears not only on page 3, but I have found this appears around 3 times already, 3 times in the bill, Mr. President. So, just subject to style, just the principle, if it can be accepted by our sponsor, that if we will limit this so that we can follow, it's page 3, line 6, which talks about proof of compliance, Mr. President. or non-violation of this act or existing laws or regulations. My proposed amendment, subject to style and pinpointing the specific phrases, Mr. President, is that we should limit the documents and other proofs of compliance to be required of those covered by this bill or this act or subject to investigation under this act only to the proof of non-violation of the four, because the four criminal acts provided in this act. Not because if we add existing laws or regulations, it becomes a total audit, Mr. President, of everybody else. That is, and I've seen this concept repeated 3 times already, Mr. President. So if the sponsor is okay with this,
I accept
yes,
the
okay,
amendment.
okay. Then we will search for all of these phrases, Mr. President, and then make the specific amendments
on the next
by
round.
Monday, Mr. President.
On the next
given
round.
sufficient time.
And what we can do is we can give a clean copy muna by Monday and do the next amendment. Okay. So with that understanding, we'll now proceed to page 4. Are there any amendments on page 4?
On page 4, Mr. President.
Yes, please proceed.
Lines 12 to 15. Bakit ganon? Page 4. One minute, Mr. President.
Yes, session suspended.
Mali ka natin. Mali.
with the indulgence of our dear colleagues, may I just put into the records, Mr. President, and acknowledge the presence of the diocese of our beloved province of Bulacan, Bishop Ephraim Perez. He is here with us.
My friend. He's also my friend, Bishop Perez.
Thank you. And we can see from
Also
the gallery.
the friend of Senator JB.
Yes, Mr. President, and we can see in the gallery, Mr. President, May Parsons, the Filipino nurse who administered the world's first COVID-19 vaccine.
And an awardee by then, Queen Elizabeth.
Yes,
He's an awardee.
Mr. President. Thank you. Mr. President, I move that we recognize again the distinguished minority leader and the sponsor, Senator Cynthia Villar.
Yes, please proceed, my dear colleagues.
No, it's about Nurse Parsons, Mr. President. I think her picture was used in the promo, "We Give the World Our Best."
Yes,
And no one knows who spent for that promo, Mr. President. Yeah.
it's a mystery.
No one knows.
Well, many things in government, Your Honor, are mysteries.
But congratulations to Ms. Parsons for being part of that tourism promotions campaign.
Yes.
Mr. President, we have encountered some difficulty because even my guide questions refer to wrong pages and lines because the draft
They
we're
didn't
working
adjust.
on has moved
They
because
weren't
this
able
is
to adjust, yes.
this was filed yesterday. So I think to make the best use of our time, since we already have proposed amendments anyway, we will give this to the sponsor so she can go over them, Mr. President. And,
Yes, and we'll take it up next week.
and with her consent,
Monday.
Mr. President, we can, if we can reset the amendments on Monday.
Yes,
Next session. Next session.
thank you very much to the minority floor leader.
Mr. President, I
Yes,
just want to request the minority floor leader to give his amendment on Monday morning so that we can have the final draft in the
I
afternoon.
think he'll give it to you today, ma'am.
Or today?
What I have now, I can already give to the sponsor,
Okay.
and then we will look for those concepts where we on which we have already agreed that we will delete the
Yes.
expansion of the proof of compliance needed of the persons covered or affected by the bill, Mr. President.
Thank
Basta
you.
the spirit is we will limit it to the 4 crimes mentioned in the bill because these are already facing these are acts which will face severe penalties already, Mr. President.
Yes. Thank you. So she appreciates, the sponsor appreciates the gesture of the submission of questions already, amendments today. Thank
Okay,
you. But
thank
please
you.
proceed, Madam Sponsor. I know you have an amendment on the last page.
Yes.
Please proceed, ma'am.
In behalf of Senator Tolentino, I want to read this amendment. It's on Section 29, effectivity. This act is self-executory and shall take effect within 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation without the need for the issuance of an implementing rules and regulations.
There being no objection to the amendment. Senator Tolentino, you're objecting to your amendment, sir?
No, Mr. President.
Yes, please proceed.
Just to further clarify, Mr. President, this
Yes, sir.
came from our continuing frustrations over seemingly unending administrative intrusions into the legislative sphere, Mr. President, as if they are now legislating themselves. This is what necessitated this amendment, Mr. President, and I fully support the amendment just announced by our good sponsor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Tolentino. Subject to style, the amendment is
Carried.
approved.
Yes,
Carried.
Mr. President. Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study further the
Substitute copy.
approved amendment by substitution, may I move that we suspend consideration of the said measure? I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection, motion is approved.
As for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended for a minute.
Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2455 under Committee Report number 153. This is the bill on Self-Reliant Defense Posture Revitalization Act. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? There being none, consideration of the said measure is now in order.
Mr. President, the parliamentary status of the measure is that we have sponsored the bill, and with the consent of the body, I move to open the period of interpellation. So move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize the sponsor of the measure, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, and to interpellate our Senate President, Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri. Mr. President, let me restate my motion to recognize the sponsor, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, and to interpellate our minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. So move, Mr. President.
The sponsor, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, is acknowledged and to interpellate Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I just would like to inform the body that the Department of National Defense has informed me that the data that I need with regard to this bill will only be available on February. But with the aid and with the help of our main proponent of this bill, none other than Senate President, I think, I hope we can answer the questions of the Minority Floor Leader, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can we ask the technicians to make our sound sharper and louder, Mr. President?
Yes, can we ask the
Yes, please.
technicians to
Yes,
increase
Mr.
the
President.
volume?
Yes, okay. At any rate, Mr. President, let us just take advantage of the fact that our sponsor is here, the main author is also here, our Senate President and the resource persons are here to talk about the general concept of this bill, Mr. President, which is entitled An Act Providing for the Development of a National Defense Industry through... No, wait, Mr. President, I'll just read the committee report. Yes, the committee has suggested the following title, An Act Revitalizing and Strengthening the Self-Reliant Defense Posture Program and Promoting the Development of a National Defense Industry pursuant thereto and providing funds therefore. So, Mr. President, from the title, we get a hint of what the bill is all about. And from the terms used, self-reliant defense posture, it's a good goal, Mr. President, to strive for, Mr. President. So may we know what is the status of our defense posture or defense situation, Mr. President? Are we importing almost all of our requirements for defense, Mr. President?
Regarding your first question, I think it's very poor. We always we export. We import. We import almost all defense materials, Mr. President. However, Mr. President, the Department of National Defense is currently reviving the SRDP program through a whole-of-nation and whole-of-government approach. The Defense Department is now preparing the SRDP roadmap that will serve as the impetus for the revitalization of the SRDP program, Mr. President. And the SRDP concept strategic roadmap is being conceptualized by integrating the AFP, the SRDP strategic concept plan, and the modernization plan of government arsenal. Moreover, foundational strategies are considered within the ambit of the Philippine Development Plan of 2023 to 2028. in establishing transformation agenda to achieve a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. Mr. President, in 2022, military-related imports totaled approximately $305 million, while arms-related exports only amounted to $85 million. And, Mr. President, we aim to cure this significantly lopsided trade imbalance by providing incentives and government support to local defense industry, and in the process stimulate job generation, promote transfer of advanced technologies, and expand our export sector, Mr. President.
Well, good news pa nga, Mr. President, that we have $85 million worth of exports in the military items industry, Mr. President. So, but then, of course, we import $305 million per our sponsor. What would be our exports, Mr. President? Our exports.
85 million. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. President, it will amount to $85 million.
Yes, what are these items, Mr.
Ano yung
President?
items?
My firearms and ammunition to the United States.
Firearms and ammunitions from the United States?
To the United States.
To the United States, Mr. President. What else?
That's it.
That's about it, Mr. President.
And then what are our military imports, Mr. President?
Cannons, cannon shells,
Cannons, cannon shells,
ships,
ships,
personal protective gear, helmets,
personal protective gear, for example, like helmets, etc., etc.
Rifles,
handguns,
aircraft, helicopters,
helicopters, aircrafts,
missile systems,
missile systems,
everything to do with the Modernization Act.
and everything to do with the Modernization Act, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. So makikita natin we are importing items which are heavy in technology,
Yes, Mr.
while we
President.
are exporting siguro, although may technological content, but masasabi natin of lower technological content, firearms and ammunition, so Mr. President. So what is the plan of this bill, Mr. President? That if we will have this, if this becomes law, sooner or later we will be producing the items mentioned as military imports here in our country, Mr. President?
Yes.
Well, Mr. President, the main objective of our SRDP program is to develop and establish an independent and dynamic defense system that solely relies on the country's own capabilities and resources in order to support the requirements of the armed forces of the Philippines and do away from dependence on foreign manufacturers in the acquisition of defense equipment. Mr. President, with government support and direct negotiations with the direct local suppliers, I think I am very positive that we can achieve this, because all countries all over the world supports their own business. Like, for example, India,
Yeah.
67% of all their defense materials must be manufactured in India. And for example, the United States of America, they have this Buy America policy. But here in the Philippines, we always import. Yes, I think the Senate President wishes to add something, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
With the permission of our distinguished Minority Floor Leader and the sponsor, just to add to the discussion, Your Honor, because ito talaga, this is my expertise for the last 20 years I'm a shooter, where we believe in self-reliance, defense posture. The good sponsor is correct, Your Honor, by saying India, Brazil, even Indonesia makes their own ships. They do all they gave all the incentives for local manufacturers to make their armaments and the defense equipment there in-house so that they're hiring local laborers. The United States, when you win, for example, the pistols in 1980s, the U.S. Army won the Beretta 92. The Beretta 92, the collateral is, if you want to supply the U.S. military with their Berettas, Italy, the Italian company, had to set up shop in the States, and they did in Atlanta, Georgia. Same with Fabrique Nationale for the the small machine guns, and later on the Sig Sauer for the military. They had to set up shop. We would like that to happen also, Your Honor, as well in the Philippines, wherein if these companies want to sell firearms to the armed forces or the armed services, they have to set up shop in the Philippines and build and manufacture it here in our country in C2. So that way, they pay income taxes. They pay, of course, they hire more laborers. They create more jobs. So that is the idea of this SRDP, Your Honor. And I'd like to mention, in 1972, we had this during the time of former President Marcos, and many shooters here, and even the gentlemen that are there, including the retired General Katapang. Naalala nyo, nung kayo po dati bang may mga Philippine Constabulary dito at military, yung baril nyo ay Elisco. The Elisco M16 was actually developed and made Elizalde Tool Company. It was designed and made in the Philippines. It was actually even exported to Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and the Thai military, they used it. So we had that. We even had a vehicle program. Naalala po nila yung mini cruiser. I remember because I was a young boy in Mindanao, in Bukidnon, yung kami, sasakyan po namin ay mini cruiser. That was only sold and manufactured in the Philippines and exported. That was a design made by the Filipinos with Toyota Mini Cruiser. So nawala na po yan, and sayang, napakasayang. So just to add, when Marawi, Your Honors, the Marawi siege happened, that's when we saw the vulnerability of our weapons and defense system. Alam po ng mga general dito, nandyan si General Acorda, they were part of the staff that entered. By day 10, Your Honor, of the siege, naubusan po tayo ng bala. Wala na po tayong bala, wala pong 40, yung sa recoilless rifle, wala na po yung 105 howitzer na rounds natin, pang mortar, wala. The President had to reach out to India, to Pakistan, even to Russia, to call President Putin to send ammunition. Ang problema yung hiningan niya, hindi interoperable with our ammo kasi iba yung bala ng Russians, iba bala ng ating armed forces dito. Punto ko po is pag wala po tayong self-reliant defense program and we need ammunition and defense equipment right away, kawawa po tayo. And thankfully, Arms Corps, which is the largest manufacturer of ammunition, which exports abroad, was here. So nagkaroon po ng direct negotiations because of the incident in Marawi. But if we did not have Arms Corps here, wala na, madadrag po yung gera because nawalan po ng bala yung ating mga sundalo. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
So thank you for that input, Mr. President. And, yes.
If I may add, Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Senate President. I think Senator Marcos, in submitting her own version of the SRDP bill, also remembered with much pride that her father, former President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., SRDP program was able to manufacture armaments such as M16 rifle, 60mm mortar tube, 81mm mortar tube and gun barrels, ammunitions, hand grenade, and 81mm mortar ammunition, and that the country was able to produce vehicles like the Jiffy Jeeps, if you remember. I think you were already born during that time. Mini cruisers, hovercraft, speedboats, and whaleboat, among others, Mr. President. Just to add, to give you any information,
yes, this,
I hope, Mr. President, that the longer that I answer your question, I hope hindi masyadong haba yung tanong mo.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. But this is a very interesting subject matter, and actually, may report din akong na-encounter. There's a worldwide shortage now, I think, of missiles or even, ano bang tawag mo, the shells, if you order because of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, maybe even the one in Israel, Gaza, and some other conflicts, maybe in Yemen, etc.
What's that?
But we are not praying for more conflict, Mr. President. No? We are praying for peace. Peace which includes the absence of exchange of fire, shelling, etc. So sana, do we have do the authors have a counterpart bill to strengthen our Department of Foreign Affairs, Mr. President? Diplomacy naman to prevent that. Dapat ganun siguro, Mr. President.
With the permission of our colleague, our sponsor, I totally agree with you because none of these people want to go to war. The gentlemen that are on these chairs, I guess they will eventually end up making an ultimate sacrifice of losing their lives, and we don't want them to do that. So I am with you with strengthening the DFA and more diplomacy on that issue. But like everybody said, who was that president? Was it President Roosevelt? I speak softly, but I carry a big stick. So in other words, we are all for diplomacy. But when time comes and you'll always have this situation where somebody might bully you, at least you're ready, both on external defense and internal defense. So yun lamang po. And I think it's also the come on of this measure, Your Honor, Senator Coco, is the number of jobs that we will create. Maybe it's good to announce, to mention now, that an initiative of our budget, the Senate-approved budget, and the good Minority Floor Leader and Deputy Minority Floor Leader were all in on this, is that, and the whole Senate, we were able to come up with an institutional amendment thanks to our chairperson, and it was not objected to by all members, wherein we added funds to the Coast Guard for patrol ships because yung patrol ships po mga luma na at kailangan natin sila tulungan. And we are now, the government now is deep into negotiations with Austal, Australia. It's an Australian shipbuilding company. And the reason why we'd like to help them is because they have a shipyard in Balamban, Cebu. And in Balamban, Cebu, they can build the ships. So with the passage of the PDIDA, it will we will prioritize locally made defense equipment. So, ang sabi nga nila sa akin, they told me, Senator, we can build the ships here in 1 year. And we will hire 3,000 shipbuilders. 3,000 shipbuilders for the 3 boats, which is, I will not mention the names of the boats so that hindi po malaman ng ibang tao. But the point is, they're excited to build it here. We don't have to buy it from Australia. They'll build it right here in Cebu.
Are they going to employ Filipinos, Mr. President?
All Filipinos, sir. All Filipinos. And they're giving a guarantee that anything happens to the boats, they will repair the boats in Philippines. And they'll set up a base also for operations with the Coast Guard. So, ang ganda po nitong bill na to. But they can't do it now, sir, Your Honors, if we just allow the same system. Because under the same system, I'll tell you, you're open to bid. It's bidding. So unang-una, masama po yan. Marami po ditong armed services. Ayaw po nilang malaman ng kalaban sa PhilJeps kung anong bibili ng gobyerno. Diba? Kasi if you project your punches, they will know how to prepare for you. So that's number one. So we can now do direct negotiation with a local company for this defense equipment. Now, if we do it with the old system, bidding po yan. Alam mo, dehado po, sir. Dehado po, sir, yung locally made. I'll tell you why. Sa VAT alone, there's some strange and stupid, and I want to put it on record, there's some strange and stupid regulation somewhere with the BIR and all, that if it's made in the Philippines, they'll charge you 12% VAT. But if it's imported from the States for defense spending, it's 12% exempt. VAT exempt. So imagine, dito mo na ginawa, dapat mas mura, pero malabas mas mahal. So the boat manufacturer, Austal, was saying, sir, we need to put that in the bill because if not, it's going to be cheaper for us to build it in Australia and ship it here, the same ship, than us building it here. So one of my amendments is to make it VAT exempt only for defense materials. So that way, you have an equal level playing field. I can't imagine why meron pong VAT exemption, yung imported, papasok dito, at hindi po yung locally manufactured. I think
with the permission of the Senate President, the Minority Leader and the sponsor, I totally agree with everything that's been said on the floor by both the sponsor and our good Senate President. I just want to share that during the Tatak Pinoy hearings, we passed the bill. We had about 7 or 8 hearings. One was on manufacturing, and one of our resource persons was precisely the company mentioned by the Senate President. And they shared with us that in the 70s, there were many local Philippine companies bidding for defense and armaments, munitions. But to this day, they're the only remaining one in that business because they did not receive the support from the government, basically. And now that the government or the population is large, it is perhaps time to reevaluate our policies because then I think we were more export-oriented. But here, we should be looking at the domestic market for not just for business or economic reasons, but also for the reasons mentioned by the Senate President to protect our sovereignty, our national interest, our national security. And second, in addition to the tax measure or the tax problem mentioned by the Senate President, there's also a payment problem which hampers our exporters. Apparently, it was shared with me that we allow those foreign suppliers to pay with letters of credit, but when it comes to government deals, but we don't allow locals or local companies to pay with letters of credit. So we are the ones handicapping or pinipilayan po natin yung sarili nating mga kumpanya. Maybe it's not intentional, Your Honors, no? Maybe it's just maybe there's a reason underlying it that makes sense, but yun ang effect or byproduct. So I just wanted to share that so that going forward, we're aware of these problems and when we make decisions, it's not just based on a purely business calculus, but also taking into account all these factors mentioned by the Senate President and the good sponsor. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Likewise, if I may add, we used to
Mahina, Mike.
manufacture the assault rifles here already. Now we are importing almost everything, but I remember we used to manufacture AR-15s here, the M16s by Elisco, Elisco Tools back then. That's all, thank you.
So if Arms Corps is the only surviving entity, wala na po yung Elisco Tools? Wala na yan? Wala na po Elisco Tools? Wala na?
Out of, Your Honor, if I may, out of 15 companies that were thriving in the 80s, only one left. And they are left, and to be honest, I was just in their show earlier, the tactical show. They remained open in spite of government's very difficult lack of incentives for them kasi they're now the major exporter of ammunition abroad. So their biggest market po is the US. And we're not fully, imagine sa US, ang daming bumibili ng bala nila, dito walang bumibili. So I mean, konti lang ang bumibili. Makes no sense po that we have to import the ammunition for PNP, for AFP. We end up importing the ammunition and firearms. Makes no sense.
Yeah. And is this bill going to cure the situation described by our Senate President?
Yes, sir. It will level the playing field. At the same time, mawawala na yung VAT. So
Removes the VAT.
Removes the VAT. And also, there will be priority on Filipino-made products on the bill. So it's parang priority first Filipino manufactured. Until we have several companies that will be already manufactured here, then they can do the competition amongst themselves.
Yes, because I think our equipment, military equipment and police equipment are compatible with what is used by NATO or by the United States. And if Arms Corps ammunition are bought in the United States, that means they are compatible with the systems
Yes, sir.
used in the United States. So they must be compatible also with the systems used in the Philippines. So there's no reason why the armed forces and the PNP are not patronizing Philippine-made ammunition like the ones made by Arms Corps, Mr. President.
Even the firearms, Your Honor, with the permission of the sponsor, I had joined, I watched or I visited the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. Alam mo yung booth po nila, I was so proud. Yung mga baril made in the Philippines. Tinatangkilik ng mga Amerikano at mga foreign buyers, Europeans sa kanilang mga baril. And tayo, pag sinabi mo made in the Philippines, baduy, parang ano lang, parang paltik. But yeah, I was so proud to see their booth. It's one of the biggest booths in the SHOT Show. It's the biggest gun show in the whole world, actually. It happens every third week in Las Vegas, of the third week of January. And everybody troops there. They're so proud. Yung mga artista, there are some actors that are supporting, even endorsing. It's called Rock Island Armory Firearms. And talagang pag ginagamit nila, hindi nga nila alam, made in the Philippines. They think it's made in the US. So why don't we support our local industry? They're employing now 3,000 Filipinos in Marikina. Imagine if we pass this, I wouldn't be surprised if right away there will be 10 to 20,000 people in the self-reliance defense program.
Mr. President, if I may interject, I just would like to ask the Senate President if he had already tried firing a Philippine-made gun and a US-made gun, or rifle, Mr. President? Or handgun.
Absolutely, Your Honor, my dear sponsor. Yung Elisco ko noon, nasa akin pa. Yung Elisco no original.
Yeah.
Naka-amnesty yan, kaya legal yan. Baka huliin ako kagad ng PNP. Pero meron akong Elisco na dumaan na sa amnesty when we put up the new firearms law. It's still with me. I still shoot it. That's my primary weapon. And that's a 1980s gun. And the Arms Corps, I have several. They shoot fantastic. And even the brand new one that they're making for the armed forces, they're making an M4 piston type na it fires underwater. I saw it myself. Dinagay namin sa loob ng drum. In the water. Boom, 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 boom. Underwater. That's how reliable their firearms are. That's why, sayang naman po kasi palagi tayo bumibili sa Israel. Bibili tayo ng Daewoo sa Korea. Ano yung mga nakita ko, the quality is not the same as, with due respect to these companies, the quality is not the same as the quality that we're making here in the Philippines. So, let's support Filipino-made. Gusto ni Senator Angara yan, tatak Pinoy. Tatak Pinoy yan.
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes, Senator De La Rosa.
with the
It's very
permission
nice.
of Senator Pimentel and the Senate President and the good sponsor, I think yung sabi ni Senate President na yung paningin ng Pilipino, if it is made in the Philippines, is baduy or low quality. For us, in the PNP, during my time, nagbabago na po yung outlook na yan because of Arms Corps. Hindi ko sinasabi na porque kilala ko yung Arms Corps, but I have really tested their firearms, lalong-lalo yung bagong import nila. Forget about Elisco, yung sinabi mong example, Mr. President, because it's no longer existent. Let's consider the present ones being manufactured by Arms Corps. And I can really say that I've been shooting long firearms for my whole life. But itong gawa ng Arms Corps ngayon ay talagang tatalunin pa yung, kahit sabihin mo yung HK na gawa ng Germany, pagdating sa accuracy, tatalunin pa niya, Mr. President. So, it's not only that I am proud being a Filipino company, pero you can just imagine if we are going to patronize these products na locally made. Ngayon, ang Arms Corps is employing thousands of Filipinos. Kung ipatronize natin yung produkto nila at lumaki itong Filipino company nito na named Arms Corps, baka times 10 pa ang Pilipino na may employ nila sa kailang kumpanya dahil palaki na palaki itong kumpanya nila. So, napakarami pong benefits na matatanggap ng Pilipino if we are going to patronize our own product. Mr. President, hindi na natin sabihin na pag local, mahina. Ngayon ang outlook natin is dapat kapag local, mura na, maganda pa. Dependable pa na produkto. That's all, Mr. President.
Ang idadagdag ko pa dyan, with your permission, Mr. President, is dahil local siya, pag may nasirang parte, ayusin nila. Guarantee. Palitan pa nila. Pero kung bibili tayo na imported, pagdating dito, pag sira, basura. Hindi na maayos eh. Hindi na maayos. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Yan po ang gusto ko rin sana sabihin po nating sponsor through his resource person na may guarantee yung May guarantee. Ang firearms na gawa po ng Arms Corps, kung binili sa Pilipinas, magka-problema, may malalapitan para ayusin.
According to the owner of
Yes.
Arms Corps, there is an absolute guarantee, Mr. President.
Congratulations for that, Mr. President. Tama po yan. Tsaka I'm sure hindi nagagamit yung guarantee na yon kasi matibay nga eh. Reliable. Mr. President, balik tayo rin sa VAT kasi napaka-importante nun. Kasi parang sabi nga ni Senator Angara, pinipilaya natin sarili natin eh. So may we know if the resource persons know the legal basis? Bakit si foreign supplier, finished product na foreign supplier ng military material, for example, even including firearms, exempted from the VAT. And yet, in case Arms Corps bids and wins, may VAT siya.
Actually,
What would
Your
be-
Honor, Mr. President, I only found out with the permission of the sponsor about this problem 2 weeks ago when I spoke to the Ostal group, yung ship manufacturer. Then I called up the local manufacturers of firearms. Ganun din daw pala problema nila.
Kaya to directly address the issue, we should look at the legal basis because we looked at the bill. Ito pong nakita namin na nasa Section 11 pa subparagraph C. It talks about exemption from national internal revenue taxes on the importation of raw materials and critical components. So,
It is here,
finished
Your Honor.
product dapat yung ating pinag-usapan. Yeah, yes, sir.
It is here pala, we found it. It is under the AFP modernization law. Under Section 17, maybe your staff can research this.
Section 17.
Exemption from value-added tax, customs duties. The sale of weapons, equipment, ammunition to the AFP which are directly and exclusively used for its projects, undertakings, activities and programs under the revised, provided that the importation of the same, and this is the exemption, that the importation of the same by the AFP shall be exempt from value-added tax and customs duties.
Okay.
So yung gusto po natin, level playing field lang,
Yeah.
pati yung locally manufactured. Hindi naka-specific.
Yes, hindi naman sa iba VAT na sa importation, but yet yung ano man tawag mo doon, domestic supplier will
Yes.
also not be subject to
level
to
playing
VAT.
field
Yes,
lang po.
we
Level
get it.
playing.
Yes, and this will be in addition to Section 11, paragraph C, Mr. President, which of the bill found on page 7, Mr. President. So is Arms Corps, Mr. President, the owner of its own intellectual property, Mr. President?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. President.
It is not a licensee of a foreign corporation?
No, Your Honor. Absolutely all Filipino.
All Filipino, and we have 2 patents as well.
Absolutely all Filipino, Mr. President.
Yes, and then yung mismong
Filipino.
yung mismong idea, mismong mechanism contained in the firearm, the science and the technology in the ammunitions and other products were were imagined and executed by Filipino minds, Mr. President. Yun ang importante, Mr. President. Yung ba ang difference ni Arms Corps dun sa 14 other companies na nag-collapse? Were they mere licensees, Mr. President?
The reason why we didn't collapse is we concentrated on the commercial market and export.
Commercial. Mr. President. According to one of our resource persons from Arms Corps, the reason that they did not collapse, unlike other defense industries that collapsed before, they concentrated on the commercial market and exports, Mr. President. Unlike the other companies who concentrated on what?
Delivering just to the Philippine government.
On delivering
To the Philippine government.
only in delivering to the Philippine market, Mr. President.
International commercial market si Arms
Yes,
Corps.
Mr. President.
Yeah, so that is the market na which is not influenced by local businessmen and even by the Philippine government. So that should speak highly about the quality of the products of Arms Corps, Mr. President. Kung sa international market sila na anong tawag mo doon, lumago at na yun ang bumuhay sa kanila. So congratulations again to Arms Corps, Mr. President. But what would be the role of Arms Corps here in this SRDP, Mr. President?
To bring in foreign partners and technologies to help develop defense.
What's the role of Arms Corps in SRDP?
Well, the role of Arms Corps here is to bring in
Foreign partners
and
develop the technology needed by the FP.
develop the development needed to strengthen the
Development and technology.
the development and technology to strengthen the armed forces of the Philippines, Mr. President.
Actually, just to add, Your Honor, yung Arms Corps is only one of several that are
Existing.
existing. But they're the biggest and most pronounced all over the world. So they're helping us. We ask them to help us support this measure so that we can see their model, how it's done properly, how it's done well, and how they're hiring 3,000 jobs, Filipinos, in Marikina, sir.
Yes,
They're-
parang.
they're-
I think
kapitbahay niyo po,
they're in
kapitbahay
parang,
niyo
yes.
po.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been there, Mr. President.
Yes, so they're leading the way for other local sectors or the sector, leading the way for local producers in being able to set up shop also in the Philippines. So that's their role here now. And I guess, you know what's nice about this is we can get all their complaints kasi they've been bidding with
Yes,
the PNP and the AP. Nakukuha ko lahat ng complaint nila kung saan sila nadadali, red tape,
Nakakita.
yung ease of doing business or the lack of it and all that. So that's how we were able to come up with this SRDP law.
Yes, can we also get a copy of the litany of the fortunate as well as unfortunate experiences of Arms Corps in dealing with the government, Mr. President?
Absolutely.
Hingi lang
We can ask them to send you a briefer on all the bottlenecks that they have gone through.
So how many defense manufacturers do we have, Mr. President, here in the Philippines?
Mr. President, aside from Arms Corps, we have this PropMech Corporation, which makes vessels, multipurpose attack craft, patrol vessels, multi-mission patrol boats, shipbuilding management. And we have a company named Thunder Defense, which manufactures armored vehicles, rubber boats, body armor, and helmets. Third is the SAS Shipyard Incorporated, which deals with the repair of the ships, shipbuilding, docking and undocking, use of marine airbags. Number 4, we have the Stoneworks Special International Corporation, which manufactures boats, fiberglass boats. And we have a small company named the United Defense Manufacturing Corporation, or UDMC, which manufactures rifles. And we have this Precision Munitions Incorporated, which manufactures firearms, automotive batteries for military trucks, refurbishing of firearms, ballistic helmets, and bulletproof vests. Number 7, we have Alpha Sigma Defense Industries, which manufactures pistols. And we have Arms Corps Global Defense Incorporated, which manufactures firearms and ammunitions. And number 9, we have the Asia Defense and Armament Corporation, which manufactures rifle scopes, binoculars, powertrains, spare parts, electronics, and armoring, and electronic warfare, and UAV as a service. And number 10, Philcomsat,
Philcomsat.
satellite
Satellite.
services. Oh, 32? Where is that?
Considered defense
We have,
manufacturing.
according to my staff here, we have 32
32, okay, sige, sir.
existing local defense
Yes,
industries,
that's
Mr. President.
I only am interested in the number. Okay, 32
Yes.
defense material manufacturers, Mr.
Defense
President.
industries, Mr. President.
Defense industry, okay. Thank you, Mr. President. So that means our bill will initially benefit at least 32, and siguro we are relying on them to use their network, existing network, to to invite locators in the country, if they should they find our incentives worth it, Mr. President, attractive enough. I think that's the main idea. And Arms Corps is the biggest of the 32, so we assume that Arms Corps has the widest international network, Mr. President. So thank you for that, Mr. President. Well, at any rate, Mr. President, what would be the budgetary implication, Mr. President? So we are reviving the SRDP kasi 1972 meron ng SRDP. So paano po ito? Ano pong pagkakagastusan at magkano po?
Well, in the bill, Mr. President, in the bill, Section 17, on page 9, appropriation and initial funding of 1 billion pesos shall be included in the annual appropriations of the Department of National Defense for the purpose of implementing this act, Mr. President.
Yes, pag meron na tayong SRDP, kasi 1972 last natin ito nakita eh. So we are reviving it. Ano yung
Yes.
ano po ba pagkakagastusan nito? Ano po ba? Meron ba tong location? I-improve ang isang location?
Well,
Ano po?
according
Are
to
we-
our resource persons here, all over the country, Mr. President, like in Bataan,
Iba-iba.
in Subic, where else? Cavite.
Wherever there's eco zones and
Maybe where the industries are, like, mga economic
we just
zones.
need electricity, water, and roads.
They only need electricity,
Yes.
water, and roads, Mr. President.
So para itong economic zone na
Yes.
defense manufacturing. And who will, unlike the PEZA, where there's a PEZA authority suggesting to the President to proclaim a certain area as an economic zone, what would be the mechanics here, Mr. President?
There shouldn't be a specific economic zone. You shouldn't lump all your defense industries for national defense so that make it an easy target.
There shouldn't be.
There should not be any.
One more day, sa interpellation, one more day tapos na.
Mag-ano pa siya, no?
Sige, last question.
Can I have a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Minute suspension.
Session suspended.
So
Thank you, Mr. President. With regard to the question of our minority floor leader, maybe it should be in any location that the private businesses will deem logistically feasible to set up, Mr. President. The advantage includes all regions that will benefit from employment, and the defense industry will be more secured by not consolidating in only one location, Mr. President. And I think, Mr. President, it is also aligned with the AFP strategic basing plan, Mr. President.
But who will be the final authority, Mr. President, to say na, approve dyan kayo mag-locate? Secretary of National Defense or the President of the Philippines?
Who will chair it?
should be the Secretary of National Defense.
The Secretary of National Defense, Mr. President.
Yes, because I've seen a lot of delegation of power also here to the Secretary of National Defense.
Yes,
So
Mr.
maybe in the second part of my interpellation, Mr. President, I'll go into the specific provisions of the law. At least for now, nakita na natin yung general overview. And yeah, so far we like the idea, Mr. President, of self-reliant defense posture program. And it's about time. Hindi naman ito magagawa ng isang araw, isang taon. Kailangan umpisa. The first step must be made, and this is the first step to invite them to locate here and require at least transfer of technology, the employment of Filipinos, and of course supplying our defense needs, Mr. President, with reliable items, Mr. President. So with that, Mr. President, I'd like to suspend my interpellation on this subject matter.
Thank you, Minority Leader.
And Mr. President, just to add to what the Minority Leader said, this time at least we don't even have to rely, once we have a very healthy self-defense program, Minority Leader, we don't need to rely on any ally. Diba, now we're relying eh. We're waiting for them to give us equipment, we're waiting. But once we build our own shipbuilding facility, like India, which has their own aircraft carriers. Indonesia is building now their own aircraft carriers. They have their own submarines also. They bought some, they reverse engineered it. Now they're making their own submarines. So sabi ko, and aircraft, jets, tayo nagagawa po. We don't have to rely on anyone else. I think that's the best. For all those in this chamber who believe in defending our territory, let's build it here in the Philippines, this defense equipment. So maraming salamat to the Minority Leader and to the sponsor for allowing me to interject.
Yes, Senator
President.
Villar is recognized.
Mr. President, I'd just like to say, as the chairman of the Committee on Trade and Commerce, that it's always been my advocacy to support our local businesses and make them internationally competitive. And I had the honor of being inside the factory of Armscor, and I saw firsthand that they use the most modern equipment. Pag ginagawa po yung mga barel, talagang naka-laser, lahat ng mga machines nila, laser, all the latest technologies that are used internationally are being used by Armscor. And I'd also like to add that the defense industry now, I read recently that the Korean defense industry just closed the biggest deal ever with Poland for arms deal. So napakalaki ng potential po ng arms industry worldwide. And we are at a point where we are already internationally competitive. Armscor sells one of the most popular brands in the U.S. The Rock Island Armory brand is one of the most popular firearms brand in the U.S. So they are already internationally competitive. If we can give more support to companies like Armscor in the defense industry, I'm confident that we can generate tens of thousands of jobs. That's why I believe that we should pass this bill at the soonest possible time. We need to support our local industries. We need to help them become internationally competitive. Unfortunately, we have not been able to give them the support that they need, but this bill is an opportunity for us to give that much needed support, create jobs, create an industry that can compete internationally. So with that, Mr. President, I'd just like to express my full support, and I hope that we can pass this legislation at the soonest possible time for the benefit of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Mark Villar. And they were still waiting for the
Maybe ask for a minute suspension.
session suspended.
very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2455. So moved, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders. Committee Report number 160 on Senate Bill number 2457. This pertains to the redefining the application of the mother tongue as medium of instruction. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there an objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 2457 under Committee Report number 160 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure.
Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved. Consideration of Senate Bill number 2457 is now in order. With the permission of the body, the Secretary will read only the title of the bill without prejudice to insert into the record the whole text thereof.
An act redefining the application of the mother tongue as medium of instruction from kindergarten to grade 3, amending for the purpose sections 4 and 5 of RA 10533, otherwise known as the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize Senator Win Gatchalian, the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Basic Education, to deliver the sponsorship speech.
The sponsor, Senator Will Gatchalian, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. Good afternoon, Mr. President, esteemed peers in the Senate. Over the past year and counting, the Senate Committee on Basic Education has thoroughly investigated the status of the implementation of mother tongue-based multilingual education, or MTB-MLE, across diverse linguistic environments throughout the entire Philippines. After 4 public hearings, 4 focus group discussions, 1 each in NCR, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and countless consultations with education stakeholders and policy experts, our answer is clear. Mother tongue as a medium of instruction is not a one-size-fits-all solution for every classroom. It is effective only in monolingual environments where learners are uniformly native speakers of the same mother tongue. In line with our findings, we are sponsoring Senate Bill number 2457 to redefine the application of mother tongue as medium of instruction from kinder to grade 3. This bill seeks to amend Republic Act number 10533, otherwise known as the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, to limit the application of mother tongue instruction policy to monolingual classroom environments. Meanwhile, the delivery of basic education in multilingual environments shall revert to the bilingual mode of instruction with Filipino and English as the primary media of instruction pursuant to the 1987 Constitution. If necessary, the regional languages shall serve as auxiliary media of instruction in the regions. In essence, we propose to limit the application of mother tongue as medium of instruction to monolingual classrooms, the precise learning environment in which the use of mother tongue is effective in theory and in practice. This more nuanced and specific approach to mother tongue as medium of instruction is appropriate considering the lack of evidence to support its application in multilingual learning environments. The committee conducted a systematic review of 39 empirical studies and reports on the effectiveness of mother tongue-based multilingual education using the established preferred reporting items for systematic and meta-analysis, or PRISMA method. The research included empirical studies conducted in the Philippines and foreign jurisdictions, as well as 16 policy reports and studies conducted between 1953 and 2018. Our review revealed evidence consistently supporting the implementation of mother tongue education in linguistically homogeneous school settings, especially in rural settings or to serve minority ethno-linguistic communities. However, there is no evidence whatsoever on record to support the use of mother tongue education in linguistically heterogeneous settings. In fact, all studies and experiments presented to the Committee on Basic Education were conducted in linguistically homogeneous settings. Notably, even the key experiments cited by the Department of Education as basis for implementing mother tongue education proved that the policy is effective only in monolingual settings. To cite a few examples, 2 studies were cited as basis for implementing the policy in DepEd Order 74, Series of 2009, and number 16, and DepEd Order number 16, Series of 2012. First, the Lingua Franca experiment, conducted by the DepEd from 1999 to 2002. This was done in 3 linguistically homogeneous school settings: Cebuano-speaking schools, Ilocos-speaking schools, and Tagalog-speaking schools. Second, the well-documented Lubuagan experiment, conducted by the Summer Institute of Linguistics in the province of Kalinga from 1999 to 2011, was similarly conducted in linguistically homogeneous schools where all learners speak Lilubuagan as their first language. Both studies revealed that the group of learners exposed to mother tongue instruction performed significantly better in science, math, and reading compared to learners who were not. In Lubuagan case, these results were consistent for learners grade 1 to grade 3. This is significant because the Philippines is classified as a highly multilingual society by various language mapping data. Language data from 2020 Census of Population and Housing show that there are about 245 reported languages in the country. Currently, DepEd officially covers only 19 languages in implementing MTB-MLE, accounting for a measly 8% of the total languages reported in the census. Further analysis also shows that some of the widely spoken languages, Boholano at rank 11, Masbateño at rank 16, Kankanae at rank 19, are not covered by the 19 languages used by the DepEd. The challenge for implementing the MTB-MLE in complex multilingual learning environments is underscored by the findings of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. In 2019, PIDS conducted a study on MTB-MLE implementation, collecting data from 16,287 schools. The underlying objective of the study was to gauge the readiness of schools to implement MTB-MLE. The PIDS cited 4 preconditions or minima for successful implementation of MTB-MLE at school level: writing big books on language, literature, and culture, documenting orthography or writing system of the language, documenting the grammar of the language, and compiling a dictionary of the language's words. At the second public hearing on this matter, conducted on June 21, 2023, the Chief Education Program Specialist of the DepEd Bureau of Learning Delivery, Dr. Rosalinda Villaneza, confirmed that the necessity for classifying the 4 minima as a prerequisite for implementing MTB-MLE. PIDS found that only 9% of schools surveyed had accomplished all 4 preconditions for the implementation of MTB-MLE. 11% had completed 3 out of the 4 requirements, while 1/4 or 25% had only completed 2 out of the 4 requirements. Almost half, or 49%, had completed only one requirement. Meanwhile, 6% of school had not even conducted a single one of the 4 minima. In essence, it appears that the vast majority of schools surveyed are simply not prepared to deliver quality instructions to learners in their respective mother tongues. Sa madaling salita, lumalabas na karamihan sa mga paaralan na isinailalim sa pagsusuri ay hindi naman talagang handang magbigay ng dekalidad na instruksyon sa mga mag-aaral gamit ang kanilang sariling wika. No less than the landmark 1953 UNESCO Mother Tongue Study backs our proposal to limit mother tongue instruction to monolingual classrooms. The following are some of the grounds cited by UNESCO study to abandon the use of mother tongue: multiplicity of languages in a locality, multiplicity of languages in a country, shortage of educational materials, shortage of teachers trained in the mother tongue, and adopting the lingua franca as medium of instruction if children have some knowledge of the lingua franca as well as of their mother tongue before they come to school. These conditions are all prevalent in many educational environments across the Philippines. In fact, as early as 2012, the DepEd through Department Order 16-12 prescribed that in schools where there are 3 or more mother tongues or variations of lingua franca without any approved orthography spoken by the pupils, the lingua franca in that area shall be used as medium of instruction. Further, in 2019, Department Order 21-19 prescribed that for mother tongue languages that are not included in the 19 languages currently used by the department, the school may use the lingua franca that is closest to any of the 19 languages as a subject for literacy development and as medium of instruction for teaching and learning. Reiterating the UNESCO study, adoption of lingua franca as medium of instruction is one of the grounds for the abandonment of the use of mother tongue as medium of instruction. It should be noted as well that the redefinition of the application of MTB-MLE embodied by Senate Bill number 2457 is consistent with Section 7, Article 14 of the 1987 Constitution, which provides that the official languages of instruction shall be Filipino and, until otherwise provided by law, English, with regional languages serving as auxiliary media of instructions when applicable. Restoring Filipino English as the primary media of instruction in multilingual environments will likely prove to be popular among our constituents. According to the Pulse Asia survey conducted between September 17 to 21, 2022, 88% of respondents supporting using Filipino as primary language of instruction in grades 1 to 3, and 71% also support the use of English. Meanwhile, only 38% support using local languages. In summary, Mr. President, the evidence on hand show that the uniform application of MTB-MLE to multilingual learning environments across the Philippines during Key Stage 1 or kindergarten to grade 3 is neither desirable nor advantageous to boosting learner outcomes. As such, the legislature must step in and mandate a more effective approach that will help young learners achieve greater mastery of their lessons and hopefully improve their academic performance over the long term. Redefining the application of the MTB-MLE will allow us to use mother tongue instruction in linguistic contexts where it has been proven effective. And we will not stop using it where there is no theoretical or practical basis to do so. We are hopeful that the simple but long-reaching reform embodied by Senate Bill number 2457 will improve learner outcomes during the critical early stages of basic education. Bilang mga mambabatas, oras na upang makinig sa tinig ng ating mga kababayan na lubos na naapektuhan. Ang mga guro, mga magulang at mga mag-aaral mismo na nasa hanay ng sektor ng edukasyon ay saksi sa epekto ng MTB-MLE sa kanilang komunidad. Dapat natin isalang-alang ang hinaharap ng mga kabataang hindi lubusang naunawaan ang kanilang pinag-aaralan. The time for experiment is over. It is time for us to apply our learnings over the last decade in recalibrating the mother tongue-based multilingual education policy to match the multilingual context of our diverse Filipino population. Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished peers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian. Mr. President, the Senators De La Rosa and Padilla would also like to co-sponsor the measure by inserting their co-sponsorship speech into the records. May we just put that on record, Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study further the measure, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2457. So move, Mr. President.
Is there objection? Hearing none. Consideration of Senate Bill number 2457 is hereby suspended.
Ask for a minute suspension.
Session suspended.
Resume.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the consent of the body, I move that we transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders. Committee report numbers 103, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, and 133. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion's carried.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move that we consider House Bill numbers 5826, 3972, 4840, 3975, 3976, 3969, 758, 694, 3962, and 5269. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the aforementioned bills are now in order.
May we ask the Secretary to read only the title of the bills without prejudice to inserting into the records the whole text thereof.
The Secretary is directed to read the title of the bill.
House Number 5826, Araw ng Bukidnon. 3972, Araw ng Marinduque. 4840, the past celebration of the Feast of the Holy Santo Niño. 3975, Tangalan Day. 3976, Kaadlawan, Ninvirac. 3969, Island Garden City of Samal, Province of Davao del Norte Foundation Day. 758, Bayugan, Agusal del Sur Charter Day. 694, Ginayangan, Quezon Founding Anniversary. 3962, Bambang Day. And House Number 5269, Taysan Founding Anniversary, Taysan, Batangas.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. With the consent of the body, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the Committee on Local Government, our Senate Deputy Majority Leader, Senator J.V. Ejercito, to deliver an omnibus sponsorship speech.
We recognize Senator J.V. Ejercito.
Thank you, Mr. President, my dear colleagues. As the chair of the Senate Committee on Local Government, it is my distinct privilege to deliver an omnibus sponsorship speech on committee report numbers 103, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, and 133. These committee reports recommend the adoption of 10 House bills declaring various local holidays in different cities, municipalities, and provinces of the country. For brevity, I will only mention the bill numbers and provide a brief description of each. These are House Bill number 5826, take into consideration Senate Bill number 2366, declaring September 1 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the province of Bukidnon to be known as the Araw ng Bukidnon. House Bill number 3972, take into consideration Senate Bill numbers 1153 and 1836, declaring February 21 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the province of Marinduque to be known as Araw ng Marinduque. House Bill number 4840, declaring January 16 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Dapa, province of Surigao del Norte, in celebration of the feast of its patron saint, the Holy Santo Niño. House Bill number 3975, declaring July 31 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Tangalan, province of Aklan, to be known as Tangalan Day. The proposed holiday would also commemorate the bravery of the local heroes of the Vivo Revolt. House Bill number 3976, declares December 7 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Virac, province of Catanduanes, in celebration of the Kaadlawan nin Virac. House Bill number 3969, taking into consideration Senate Bill number 1299, declaring March 7 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the Island Garden of Samal, province of Davao del Norte, in commemoration of its Foundation Day. House Bill number 758, taking into consideration Senate Bill number 1966, declaring June 21st of every year as a special non-working holiday in the city of Bayugan, province of Agusan del Sur, in commemoration of its Charter Day. House Bill number 694, declaring June 20 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Ginayangan, province of Quezon, in commemoration of its founding anniversary. House Bill number 3962, declaring July 5 of every year a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Bambang, province of Nueva Vizcaya, to be known as Bambang Day. Finally, House Bill number 5259, declaring November 11 of every year as a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Taysan, province of Batangas, in celebration of its founding anniversary. Some of our colleagues filed counterpart measures to these local bills. These were taken into consideration in the corresponding committee reports. Notably, our Senate President also filed a bill for declaration of September 1 as Araw ng Bukidnon. We look forward to join the festivities when the Bukidnon Airport or Air Subiri is completed. Levity aside, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues, it would be fair to say that local and national history are equally important in our multifaceted archipelago. Ang bawat probinsya, syudad, munisipyo, barangay at sitio ay may kwento at lahat ng ito ay mahalaga. Thus, these bills are not mere populist exercise in handing out new holidays. They are an exercise in recognizing and celebrating local histories. This is also a step towards preserving these stories, thereby preventing them from being lost in time. With that said, Mr. President, my dear colleagues, we pray for the swift passage of this measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this juncture, may I just place into the records that Senator Sherwin Gatchalian would like to have his co-sponsorship speech on House Bill number 3972 on Araw ng Marinduque to be inserted into the records. Together with Senator Risa Ontiveros, she would like to have her co-sponsorship speech on House Bill number 3975, Committee Report number 127, on Araw ng Tangalan, Aklan. And another, in addition to that, Mr. President, may we ask that we recognize our Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros.
The mentioned co-sponsorship speeches are hereby inserted, and we recognize Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maikling dagdag lang dun sa minanifest kindly ng Majority Leader para sa representasyong ito. Kaya gusto kong hilingin sa good sponsor, maging co-sponsor din dun sa House Bill 3975 sa ilalim ng Committee Report 127 tungkol sa Tangalan Day dahil yun po ay hometown ng aking paternal grandfather, si Justice Jose Miraflores Ontiveros. Salamat po, Mr. President.
Mr. President, this representation would also like to insert into the records, with the permission, of course, of our distinguished sponsor, the House bills that he sponsored, Mr. President. Thank you.
So noted.
With that, Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Monday, December 4, 2023. So move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Happy weekend to everyone.